Right. So, hello, everyone, and welcome to our event on really delving into what it is to serve from your wisdom and not from your wounds. I'm really excited to talk through our content for this evening to get into, yeah, all the good stuff. This is some of my favorite stuff to talk about. So, hopefully, there are some things that you'll learn, some things that you can take away with you. Hopefully, if there are any questions or queries or, I don't know, karmic patterns and cycles playing out for you, that tonight you'll gain some clarity on that. Yeah, so to start, let's just start with a very quick, just opening kind of preparation meditation. And just really nice and simple. If you just want to take a moment and just breathe into your body, full body breaths, and just imagine that that air is nourishing all of your cells, all of your systems. And if you would like to breathe in and out through your nose, nasal breathing is just a really quick and easy way to just help your nervous system calm and settle. And as you're taking these breaths, just feel your muscles relaxing, feel your joints softening. You may feel the chatter or thoughts, or if there's anything that's really moving quickly or feels repetitive, just witness that energy start to slow and settle and feel a bit more calm. And just take a nice deep breath and allow your energy just to start to expand out. You can allow yourself to expand out through your home, through your town, your city, your country, and expand out through the world. And just allow your energy to start to expand out into the universe. And just allow this to happen at its own pace, its own progression. It's not a pushing or a forcing that to happen. It's actually your natural state to be expanded and spacious. So just allow your energy to expand out as far as you want. Be as spacious as you want. And don't overthink it. Just let it happen. And if there are any intentions for this evening, anything that you're ready to finish, complete, resolve, heal, you can speak that into your heart or to the universe now. If there's any questions you're wanting answered, allow yourself to identify those. And even if it's just a word or a feeling, and you just want to focus on something simple, it can also be really powerful. Again, just in this spaciousness, allowing your body to be calm, allowing yourself to be present. Bless that our words are medicine, our hearts are open, our thoughts peaceful. Our words are poetry and messages are medicine. Oh, great. So again, welcome and thank you so much for being here. So yeah, some familiar faces and I think a few new ones as well. So just really, really briefly, I'll introduce myself just a bit. So I'm Jennifer Main. My background, I have a background in psychology. I've worked with people with complex needs, addiction, homelessness, things like that. I did that for about 10 years or so in the US and the UK. And then started to delve more into philosophy, healing, the subconscious mind, embodiment, yeah, lots of different things, probably about, oh gosh, what year is it? It was 2009-ish, 2008, 2009 is when I first started to delve into these things. Um, so yeah, so my journey over the last 20 plus years has taken me into all these realms, and I study things like I've studied Reiki, angels, guides. I've theta healing. I've looked at kind of plant and natural medicines, things around the subconscious mind, our belief systems, and really our motivation, what makes us tick. And over the last, I've done a lot in terms of the healing realm and helping guide people through on their healing journey. And so the stuff we talk about tonight is going to tie in really well with that. And I want to kind of go into kind of my philosophy and point of view on the healing journey, the healing process, why we go through it, the ways it can not only benefit us, but the world around us. Um, but also without allowing ourselves to get caught up in the story of it or the identity of it or the trappings of it, if that's the right way to put it. Because I think sometimes we can get so caught up in, I have to heal, heal, heal. We forget why we're doing it. Yes. So hopefully, as we go through tonight, again, there will be some clarity, hopefully some questions answered. Yeah. And so if you'd like to type away in the chat at any point. Again, I'll be checking that throughout. Hey, Allison in Glasgow, you have in sunny Edinburgh. Yes, the sun's out finally. Yes, if you'd like to share where you're joining from, that would be great too. It's always fun to see. We usually got a few continents present. um, but yeah, again, if there's any questions or aha moments that come up, feel free to type away. I'm happy to have that shared. Hello, Emer in Dublin, also sunny, great. um Yes, yes, Dace in East Yorkshire, very cool. Hopefully I pronounced that properly. I'm Gaynor in just outside Glasgow. It's sunny and nice clouds. Perfect, perfect. Oh, and Stuart in Pennycook. Right, yeah, keep talking away, keep chatting away. Right, so basically, what I want to talk to you a little bit about is I would say my point of view or my philosophy on kind of the healing journey and also what it is to embody the roles of whether you're a leader, a healer, a guide, a practitioner, coach, a carer, um, a pioneer. You're someone in a space where you are really you're here to serve. Like a lot of what you do is service related. I think this all will be beneficial for you because it will help you to be better at what you do. When I say better, I mean that in the best ways, not in the ego way of trying to measure things, but in the way of showing up as a clearer energy without too much of your own stuff getting in the way, which is what I find happens over and over again. Yeah, so let's start from the beginning. um, yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the healing process, and then we'll get into kind of the wounds and the service aspects. So for me, I see the healing journey as a lifelong journey. It is a process that we go through, and a little bit unfortunately, and sometimes I have my moments where I'm like, is this ever going to end? um, and I would say it probably doesn't end throughout your life. I will say there will probably be periods where you maybe focus on it a little bit more. But I think that any type of healing that we are doing, we're going to benefit from in some way. And when I say healing, that could be healing practices we are engaging in. That could be meditation practices. This could be, feeding and nourishing your body and moving it in great ways, anything that's helping you heal on these levels. But what I also want to emphasize is that there is healing in living a life that is aligned. And we're going to delve a bit more into that tonight. So I think, again, a lot of times there's this maybe a misconception where people think that healing has to be hard, it's got to be difficult, that it's got to be done a certain way in a certain modality or a certain philosophy or a certain religion. And that you have to sit in a room by yourself or with one other person, or it has to be in an ashram or a yoga studio, or all these preconceptions of what we think it has to be. What I hope to introduce tonight, and hopefully you will take this away if there's nothing else you take away, is that healing can happen in healthy conversations Healing can happen in having an experience that brings joy. Healing can happen in you setting a new clear boundary. Healing can happen in you just taking some time in your day to have some peace and some quiet, or to honor yourself in whatever way is useful. So, um, so hopefully you can recognize that the healing process are the things that we can do every day, the things that we can experience in our daily lives. It can be big and small, because obviously we can have these amazing breakthroughs and these incredible experiences that are healing, but we can also take them step by step along the way, and it can be really smaller but still really profound and powerful. um, so as we go through tonight, so I am a healer at heart. That is what I do energetically on a lot of levels. As we're going through, I might so I work with the energy of unconditional love. So I may call in some of that energy. There's an opportunity for whether it's belief systems or emotions or things to shift and change within you if you want that. So I will invite you at times to allow that energy to shift, or for you to kind of breathe that in, or allow it to move through you. If you don't want that, you don't have to have it. I would encourage you to receive, but please know that anything that we're working with is totally up to you. You've got free will. Um, so to start with, what I'd like to do is just, if you have any misconceptions or misunderstandings or fixed ideas about the healing process, just to take in a nice deep breath and just allow some more clarity and a higher understanding to shift through you. Especially if there's any part of you that believes that the healing process has to be difficult or hard, that it has to take a long time, um, or that you have to wait to be happy or successful or have great relationships. You have to wait to be totally healed to have any of those things. Let's just resolve that energy too. So, my understanding or my philosophy around the healing process is, yes. So, one of the benefits of healing is that we feel better. Because we're carrying less trauma, less pain, we're working through less of those experiences. So we're less caught up in the drama and trauma within us. We'll talk a little bit more about that too. Um, but for me, what the healing process, or what healing really does, is it brings you into alignment with yourself. It brings you back home to yourself, is one of the things. So in one instance, so if you think about this notion of, if you're so caught up in a bunch of old pain, if all of your energy and focus is in the past, it's based on where you've been, what you've done, what you feel has been done to you, those old experiences, then we spend a lot of time either looking at the past, working through the past, being afraid that we're going to repeat the mistakes of the past, being afraid that we're just going to keep perpetuating all these things. So if we are not in a healing process, or running away from it, or not allowing ourselves to be a part of it, we're still on some level fighting it. Um, so instead of being in the present, we're in the past, and often unconsciously still cycling through a bunch of problems, a bunch of pain, a bunch of suffering, a bunch of confusion, wherever that's come from. So what happens is that pulls us out of alignment. Um, and it stops us from being present. It stops us from seeing what's actually happening in the here and now. It stops us from witnessing the people that are right in front of us. It stops us from being able to really bear witness, yeah, to really bear witness to what is true, to what's happening and what's alive in the moment. So what happens is, as we heal the things from the past, it brings us into the eternal now. It brings us into the present. And what happens is that, well, really everything just happens in the present. Like, things can only happen in the present. We can plan for the future, we can think about the past, but every decision, every choice, it happens in the present moment. And that's where the power is, the magic is, our opportunity for things to evolve and to change. So for me, what happens is as we heal issues from the past, it allows us to be more and more in this present moment. And when we are in the present moment, we're much more aligned with who we are. We're much more aligned with um, those higher aspects within ourselves. So whether you want to call that soul or higher self or your divine self, whatever terminology you want to use, yeah, that helps to bring us into that. Um, and when we are really embodying and present in the deep now, um, we are less bound by space and time. We're less bound by the things that limit us or that we believe limit us, because we're no longer fighting the past or judging the past or judging ourselves for the past. We're in the present moment, able to really see and discern what's possible for us now. So hopefully that makes sense so far. If there's any questions about any of that, go ahead and type away in the chat. But hopefully we're all on the same page so far. So what happens is that in terms of these past things that are cycling through us, and I brought this up a couple weeks ago at an event, and this is something I'm really playing with around changing the language around some of this stuff, because we talk a lot in the healing world about how we carry old pain or how we're holding it in our organs or we're holding it in our cells. I would like to offer another way of looking at it, which maybe you'll find useful. I'm finding this much more useful. Instead of seeing ourselves as these fixed aspects that are holding or carrying pain, what I would like to offer is a notion that that is actually energy, and if you want to call that karma or cycles or again, whatever terminology, but that's just what is still cycling through us. And the idea is that if there is a belief system or emotion or a pattern of behavior or addiction, if there's something that is still cycling through us, if it's still showing up in our lives, if it's coming up over and over and over again, there's something that is unresolved in that. There's something that is misunderstood in it. Um, and part of us is trying to work it out. So we get to experience it again and again and again until we work it out, until we figure it out. And this isn't a punishment for getting it wrong before. It's not a slap on the wrist. It's not a you're going to keep doing this until you get it right. That's not what this is. Although sometimes it might feel that way. But really, this is the opportunity to examine it either from another viewpoint, from a higher perspective, with maybe some new insight or some new wisdom. Yeah, it's an opportunity to address it again and say, what can I do differently? How could I see this differently? How could I approach this differently? Is there a different choice I could make? Is there a different way I could show up? Is there something else I could do here that would be more aligned, that would be healthier, that would be better for me or for the world? Oh, so take a moment and just breathe that in. If there's any confusion around old emotion, old behaviors, old belief systems that have been contributing to that drama or trauma within you, just start to allow some of that energy to resolve. And you may have some insight and some clarity coming in. So we'll welcome all of that. So whether we're talking about things on, this could be past life experiences, if you believe in those, these could be ancestral memories, things that your ancestors, your family members have repeated over time, over generations, sometimes over millennia. This could also be stuff within the collective consciousness to just humanity, belief systems and trauma and pain that humanity is holding from wars, from mistreatment, from, us not treating each other very well. That stuff's in our field. It's in our vibration. It's all around us. What I would offer is, instead of this belief that we're just stuck in it, that we're wading through it or drowning in it all the time, what if that energy signature or that information is there because we're still meant to learn from it? And when I say learn from it, I mean this in the highest way. Again, this is in school being punished, being told you're going to sit here until you get it right. This is not what I mean by that. And I've talked about this as well before. Ram Dass, find, puts this beautifully, and I'm going to try not to misquote him too much here. But he was talking about how he used to look at things in life in terms of lessons and learning. And then he changed the language or changed his understanding to these instances, even if they're traumatic or painful, these are opportunities for awakening. And there's a real beauty and a grace in that. Oh, breathe that in. Yeah. So if we can recognize that anything, any trauma or pain that is cycling through us, instead of it feeling like a punishment or something that we've got to sit and puzzle through, work out, figure out, we've got to learn this hard, difficult lesson from. What if you could recognize it as simply an opportunity for awakening and maybe question what it is meant to awaken within you? So, what could this experience, what could this belief, what could this cycle, this pattern, this feeling of addiction or craving, what could this be awakening within me? So, what happens is when we start to understand that point of awakening and start to embrace it and embody it, when we make that choice, that is what actually heals the cycle. That's what heals that energy from cycling through us or within us or around us. That's what heals the issue. Um, And I think people get really caught up in these ideas of, oh, I've got to heal all my past life karma, got to heal all my ancestors' stuff, got to heal my entire family line. I got to save the world. I've got to be the one to sort out all the stuff that we're all going through. I mean, that's heavy, right? And by the way, that's not your job. Too much, too much. It's not for you. We'll go a bit more into that. But again, if you could just look at, okay, well, what is it that's present for me? What is it that's cycling through me in this moment at this time? And what is this meant to awaken in me right now? What would happen is that it would change your entire approach to healing, because a lot of people feel they're like, I got to go back and heal every single past life. I got to go back and heal every single ancestor. I got to go back to every single point in time that created pain or suffering in me or them or the rest of the world. And that's not true. That's not true. Because again, remember, a lot of these pain points, a lot of these wounds, a lot of these trauma and suffering, it's really the same energy or it's the same theme. And it's the same or a similar opportunity for awakening. Again, it's just trying to awaken something within you. So we overcomplicate it. We think it's much bigger than it is or harder than it is. So here's the two things that you can do. And this, I feel like if we could all like figure this out and really embody it, like I would work myself out of a job, but there would be no need for me to be a healer anymore, which I would be totally cool with that because we'd all be happier and healthier. So the two parts of this for me is that if you can start to recognize the patterns, it's that question of what is this awakening in me? So it could be a gift or a virtue. It could be a higher aspect of yourself. It could be a realization about your life or who you are. It could be an awakening to your path or awakening to, an aspect of genius within you, awakening to a passion. It could be any and all of those things. So those realizations are part of it, but then the next part is actually acting on it. So it's one thing to have the awareness. So for me, there's a difference between knowledge and understanding. Oh, celebrations, balloons here. um, so it's one thing to know something, like I can know words in a dictionary, I can know the letters and numbers, I can know what they mean. Understanding them means I've actually lived them and there's a feel for them and there's an embodiment of that. Um, so I can understand what I have experienced. I can understand what I've studied. I can understand what I've really delved into, the thought processes, the decisions that I've gone through. I can really understand that because there's been an embodiment and a choice to live it. I can know a lot of other things. but my hope is to understand more too. So that this is where understanding comes from, is an actual a choice to live it, a choice to experience it, a choice to embody it. So I can know what compassion is, like a textbook dictionary understanding of it, but I don't really understand it until I choose to be compassionate towards myself or towards other people. Right? There's a real difference in the energy between those two. And so if part of my healing journey is to awaken love within me, it's to awaken to love, the feeling of love, the process of love and loving. Um, but I don't choose to do it. I won't understand it, and I will never really have that full awakening. And so what happens is the universe, the divine, whatever terminology you want to use, life will keep giving me experiences to awaken this within me until I actually choose it, until I actually choose to embody it and live it. And I can fight it all I want, and I can make it hard on myself. Or I can recognize that this is an opportunity for me to awaken these higher aspects of who I am, the greater gifts within me, so that I can be of better service to myself and those around me, and I can live and embody that. And so what happens is that with a lot of this trauma, the pain, the wounds that we're experiencing, we kind of keep going over and over again. We're like, why hasn't this healed? Why hasn't this healed? Why hasn't this healed? But it's because either you're not recognizing that opportunity for awakening, and or you're not choosing to live it. So I know, um actually, let's go into this. Let's go into the wounds aspect, because this will tie in with this. So each of us will have themes or areas of wounding within us that are profound and that often span throughout our lifetime. And it may be a couple things, or they may be very closely related. Usually they're very closely related because they are connected with our purpose or why we're here, our dharma, which whatever term you want to use for that. So what I found is that these deeper, bigger wounds that again often span throughout your lifetime, maybe not always, but it often does. This will, these are your greatest opportunities for awakening, your greatest opportunities for evolution and change. They will point the way towards your purpose and your dharma. They are a key part of why you are here. So what happens is that when we run away from the wounding, when we avoid it, when we try to dull it down, when we get into, addictions or dissociation, or yeah, the avoidance, the getting high, numbing out, all those things that we all do as humans on some level, some way, shape, or form. What happens is we don't heal, so the pain just continues. But actually it will grow and it will get worse, because again, that awakening is there for us, and it's trying to show us an aspect of our lives that we're probably afraid of as well, which is why we're running from it. So again, a lot of the stuff I'm talking about is happening on an unconscious level. You may not consciously be thinking through these thoughts or going, I'm trying to run away from my purpose, I don't want to do that. But on an unconscious level or subconscious level, that may be what's playing out for you. So, so like the example I use a lot is, for in terms of some of my deepest wounds and how they have guided me towards my greatest gifts, in my purpose and my dharma, is that, I started off, I was a very sensitive, intuitive, empathic child, and felt very overwhelmed and isolated and alone, and felt very weird and strange, and felt very outside of, social circles and people. I really didn't feel like a person for a long, long time. And that created a lot of suffering for me growing up, because I felt other than, and and it was nothing that people were doing to me or were trying to do to me. This was just my own sensitivity, my own fear around my intuition and my psychic senses, my fear of the information I was picking up on. I just didn't know what it was. I didn't understand it. It was overwhelming. It was scary. So this was a lot of my childhood was growing up experiencing things that I couldn't explain. I didn't feel like I had anybody to talk to about it. Um, I think I tried to rationalize it away and tried to explain it away to myself. Again, loads of this stuff is just misunderstanding and unprocessed stuff from childhood. Um, because we're children and we don't know how to deal with it. So, there's reasons why it's unprocessed and why it's misunderstood. Then we get to adulthood and we get to pick it apart and see what's going on. Um, but what has happened is that as I have um, gone into studies and my career, it's led me on this path of, basically a lot of the work I do is helping people understand their intuition. It's helping people understand their sensitivities. It's helping people understand their empathic senses, their nervous systems, um, how to tap into their psychic skills, their intuition, their inner compass, um, and not only understand those gifts and cultivate them, but also just not feel like an outsider or like they're strange or weird or wrong. Um, and but what I can also do is I can recognize that these have been the themes of my life. There have been themes running through that, of course, in hindsight, it's easy to look back and, and kind of figure that out. Sometimes in the moment, it's not as easy. But I can look back at my life, and even as a child, I was the one who was trying to help others feel like they fit in, feel like they had friends. I was the one reaching out and being compassionate and being kind. I was the one reaching out to other sensitive people who felt like they didn't fit in. And I've always been, in a role of helping to care for people or support them or guide them. So there's been this natural kind of inclination for me, that is a part of who I am and a part of, my identity in terms of service and leadership now. But I can see how my sensitivities and my wounding, because it's created such an awareness for me, and because I've really had to go into it and understand it on a very deep level, it helps me show up as a leader and a healer in really profound ways, in much more powerful ways. Now, what I want to say about the wounding is that, this will be different for everybody. Each of us will have our own kind of aspects of wounding, and there will be different things that are awakening within us from that. I can share a little bit of my story. It may or may not resonate with you. Yours may be something different. So it's really worth kind of spending some time with what you would deem as your deepest wounds, your oldest wounds, the things that have kind of played out through time, throughout your lifetime, and be asking yourself this question of, well, what is meant to awaken in me from this? What can I learn from this? What can grow and evolve within me or within my life from this? So instead of it being something I run away from or push away or try to suppress, that this becomes an integrated and understood part of my life. So one of the big aspects of my own intuition and empathic senses, what I was that I was unconsciously trying to suppress a lot of it. I was doing lots to try to suppress it, shut it down. And again, consciously, I wasn't really aware of this stuff, but I was doing it on an unconscious level. And I was developing migraines. I was developing digestive issues, IBS, things like this. All of these things were developing on a physical sense as well, because I was emotionally and energetically trying to control all this stuff within me. So, whatever these things are, if we're trying to suppress or control them or push them away, something within us will say, no, you need to pay attention to this. You really need to look at this. Um, and if I had continued to fight it or suppress it, God, I can't imagine what I would feel like right now. The issues that could have developed from that. So, really luckily and gratefully and, wonderfully. I managed to find through my intuition and of course the universe and the divine, I'm sure, supporting. I was able to find people, teachers, courses, experiences to help me understand myself more, to help me understand what the wounding was and what it was actually trying to awaken within me. And actually what I've realized is that my awakening has been that I am super psychic. I'm super intuitive. And that is one of the greatest gifts that I have. It's not always the easiest gift, but it's been so meaningful for me. And once I learned to accept it and work with it, my life has evolved and changed and unfolded in incredible ways. So, I tell this story not to talk about me, but just to help you, hopefully help you understand that this may be your gifts, may be something you're fighting against, and that's creating the wounding. That's creating the difficulty of it. So, by addressing the wounds, by addressing the fear within that, you get to evolve in these incredible ways. Your gifts and your areas of genius get to emerge. You get to apply them and you get to live them, and that will enhance your life. It's not going to make it harder or more painful or more difficult, or yeah, it's going to help you, like, I'm getting pictures of flowers like blooming. This is the idea of you get to open up, you get to express yourself in more meaningful, fruitful ways. Yeah. So in terms of the wounding that we have, these cycles, these patterns, these things that are cycling through us, a lot of this is just, it's really unprocessed emotion. It's misunderstood information. It's just, yeah, old beliefs and things from the past that are outdated, um, that just need to be updated, that need to be understood, that need some new light shed on it. Um, yeah, so it would be worth spending some time, yeah, really just saying, well, what have been the greatest wounds in my life? What have been the greatest difficulties there? What have been the themes or the beliefs or the feelings that just feel like they've been the ones that have been so difficult? And what is it that these are meant to awaken in me? Um, yeah, my feelings of being isolated and rejected really made me compassionate towards people that were isolated and rejected. It really helped me to develop a sense of compassion and awareness about creating community and about, inviting people in and connecting in those ways. Now, um, this leads really nicely into the motivation within some of this too. And this is some of the stickiness within this stuff that will probably require more either time or, I don't know, focus to work through and really gain some clarity on. And some of this stuff can be very subtle, some of it can be very obvious. So hopefully you're able to see kind of where things may be gray or sticky for you when you're looking at this. So what happens with a lot of people in leadership roles who are carers, coaches, healers, etc., in those kind of caring roles, what happens is they go into those roles, that whether it's their job, their work, or the family dynamics, identities, and there's a desire to be of service. There's a desire to help. There's a desire to support. But what also gets coupled with that, if we haven't worked through and done some healing around the wounding, is that a lot of these old projections and pain and fears get mixed up in that identity. So I'll give an example. So I was speaking with someone, this was years ago, who she had a family member who had just died like 2 weeks before. And she was like, oh, so I've got to create an offering now of helping people through the grief process. So this is someone who was still swimming in her own grief, who was still so heavily just in that process, but who had said, oh, well, this is what I need to start doing now. This is how I'm meant to be of service right now. I'm going to encourage you in those experiences and those moments to take some time out first. Because what happens is that if we have not processed through our own wounds, at least to a good degree, if we haven't worked through that stuff, our own doubts and fears and dramas, our own lack of clarity, our own suffering will interweave its way into the work we're doing with other people. And it's really unhealthy. It's really unhealthy for everybody. And this is where a lot of healing practitioners and coaches and leaders get into trouble, is that they think that they are doing something to help, but they're not coming at it with the clearest of motivations, and they're not coming at it with the clearest of energy. And when the boundaries get messy, the relationships get messy. And this is where people get into drama and problems in their life. And I'm also speaking of this as someone who's done this myself too. So I know what it's like to get it wrong. um, yeah, yeah. So it's really worth, so I'm not saying, there's that saying of kind of heal thyself. I'm a big proponent of that. I think that if you are going to be in a leadership role or a healer, carer, coach, um, it is your responsibility to do the work, and to work through your stuff, and to continue to work through your stuff, to find those blind spots, to resolve your own things so that you are not projecting your own stuff onto other people. So that, and also so that they're not able to project their stuff onto you. So what happens with a lot of people is that if they have not healed their mother wounds, they either become other people's mother or expect other people to be their mother. Um, Same with the father wound. Um, yeah, and you can get into these, and what happens with a lot of, oh, I can feel this with a lot of people in these realms, in these worlds, is they can really easily slide into those savior martyr roles, and that makes a mess. Um, because here's the thing, you're not supposed to save anybody. We don't save other people. They heal and grow and evolve themselves. They become empowered themselves. We're not meant to save people. And you certainly don't want to be a martyr for anything. There's no need. There's absolutely no need to be a martyr in any sense of that word, in any realm of your life. Because actually, if you're trying to lead and you're showing up as the martyr, you're doing a disservice for your community and for yourself. So let's take a moment. Actually, if any of you feel like you are living in this role of the savior or the martyr, just take a breath and just let's start to release that identity or that role, because there's no need for you to be there. Yeah. Um, and again, this is really about you looking at what your motivation is for stepping into some of these roles, for wanting to serve in some of these ways, and making sure that that motivation is really clear, is really light, is really powerful in the best ways. So and a few minutes ago, I was talking about how, because I'd felt excluded and isolated as a child, it made me very aware of when other people felt that way. What I didn't realize, and this is a number of years ago, was that there was still a part of me that was playing in that pain, that was still cycling within that. And so what happened is that when I recognized that there was a student or there was someone in a group who was maybe a bit isolated or left out, I overcorrected in those scenarios. I really overcorrected to try to make sure that they felt like they fit in, that they had a place, um, that it was okay for them to be there. Yeah, I really overcorrected with that stuff. And what happened was that on an unconscious or subconscious level, it created a really unhealthy dynamic and boundaries between me and those people. And it ended up becoming yeah, it ended up becoming horrible. So what I realized was that my old pain was motivating me to overcorrect in my helping of them. but it wasn't actually helpful for them because they could feel that the power dynamic wasn't healthy. They could feel that the energy there wasn't as clean or clear as it could have been or should have been. So so again, this was really subtle. It was really subtle. It wasn't an obvious thing when it started, but obviously it grew. Um, so this is why I'm really encouraging you to look at your motivations for your choices and for your behaviors to make sure that your own wounding isn't motivating you to show up a certain way, to say a certain thing, to act a certain way, because these are the things that will create rot is the word that's going to it will rot your relationships. It will damage what you're trying to create really from because you want to do it from a place of love, from a place of service. Yeah. And especially if it starts out subtle, it can still grow. If it feels small, it can grow. So if you catch it early, if you can go, oh, actually, I'm a little bit out of alignment here, or oh, I can recognize that there's some pain there that's motivating me to act this way or to approach this person or to, I don't know, react this way in this scenario. That's worth delving into and recognizing, okay, what is it that still needs to heal within me? And what do I still need to understand? Or again, what can awaken within me at this moment? Um, so this is one of the big things I think for really understanding your own wounding. Um, because again, as you heal that, you show up as someone who is more empowered, who's more honest, who's more authentic, who's more aligned, and where these old cycles of wounding are not motivating it. So, one of the other things that comes up around kind of this motivation for being of service and is it healthy or is it wounded? And I see this a lot with people who are healers and coaches and leaders. And again, this is very unconscious a lot of the time. Sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's not. But it's this notion of I have to heal the world, um, and not because, well, some of it will be because they don't want others to suffer. But what they're recognizing is that when another person is in pain or suffering, it triggers me and I feel bad. Yeah. So what happens is if again, if we have our own wounds, our own triggers. So if I have like the example I use a lot is if I have an anger issue, if I have a lot of anger that's cycling through me that I haven't resolved, that I haven't met and understood. If I'm around another person that has a lot of anger issues, we'll trigger each other's anger because that's what's resonating in that moment. And instead of people saying, "Oh, I need to resolve my anger," they go, "Oh, I just need to clear all the anger in all those other people. And then I will no longer feel angry." So this is another misconception within the healing world. And again, I would love it if we change the language around this within the healing and coaching communities. This notion of I take on other people's emotions is not true. This thing of, oh, well, that person's really sad and now I'm really sad because I've been around them. That's not true. We didn't take their sadness when we were helping them heal. Their sadness and our sadness triggered each other. It got triggered and we became aware of it. So the beautiful thing is that when we get triggered or activated, whatever word you want to use, it helps bring an awareness in of, oh, I've got some anger that's unresolved. I've got some sadness that's there that I can learn from or heal or resolve. But what happens on an unconscious level with a lot of healers and coaches is they're like, well, if I can help everybody else deal with their stuff, then I will no longer feel angry, upset, sad, frustrated, all of those things. But what happens is that we then project on other people and we like have all these expectations of you need to heal your stuff so I don't feel bad, right? And guess what? Not everybody is going to work through their stuff immediately for you so that you don't feel bad. It's much easier for you to just work on your own stuff so that you don't feel bad. And that again is the beauty of it is that if I work on my anger, then I can be around another angry person or a person who has anger issues. If I've resolved my anger stuff, we don't trigger each other's anger anymore because I don't really have anger there to get triggered. Oh, breathe in that possibility. So the cool thing is if I work on my own wounds, if I resolve my own fears, I am triggered less and less and less and less and less because there's nothing there's just not energy there to trigger. There's that stuff isn't cycling to be triggered. Oh, yeah. So again, coming back to this healer, heal thyself, you work on your own wounds. You show up in your sessions, in your work, in a more aligned and centered space. You show up in your families and your relationships in a better space. Um, yeah, and it's a much easier to just really be present and centered within yourself instead of feeling pushed and pulled by the triggers in the world around you. But yeah, but I've seen this over and over again where people are like, oh, and the other thing is around this is that people are like, oh, I have to heal my family so I can stand to be around them. They're so annoying. They're so frustrating. They're so dysfunctional. I can't be around them. So I got to heal all my family stuff so I can be around them. Well, here's the thing. You can definitely heal stuff cycling through the family. You can definitely, if there are things that you are carrying that you have chosen on some level to carry, to resolve, to work through, you can absolutely do that. And they can benefit from it if they want to, but it's still their free will and it's still their choice. And the reality is that your family members are not your responsibility because they have their own journeys as well. Remember, if we are having experiences that are meant to awaken us, they also have experiences that are meant to awaken them. Whenever and wherever and however they choose, that is their choice. You cannot awaken your family for them. I'm sorry to say. You cannot awaken other people for them. That is their process, that's their free will. Oh, so any of you that are have burdened yourselves with your family karma that is not for you to carry, if you would like to just set that aside, just breathe in that possibility. Let's just set some of this down. And I see this a lot in people who they're either trying to change or unconsciously control their family members. They're trying to show up as the teacher all the time. They're trying to tell everybody what to do. Um, and again, on some level, they think that they're trying to help. Um, but ultimately it's because they're really just needing their own suffering to heal and resolve, so that they can just show up with their families again as themselves without all those triggers and without feeling like they're reacting out of pain or shame or trauma from the past. I mean, the cool thing here as well is that if you work on your stuff, those charges aren't in your energy field anymore. So it may be that there's less drama and less suffering when you're around your family. Um, and then maybe they will be inspired to do some things themselves, but it's that recognition that you can't control that through your wounding. You can't tell them what to do or make it happen. So yeah, again, this thing of, what's your motivation? And the last thing around this with your motivation for being of service, and we're going to go into the service bit more in just a moment. But this last bit is really looking at your identity and the identity you have built around this. Um, take a breath and just allow some of this to start to unravel. So we spend our lives, our subconscious mind, our ego likes to have labels. We like to have labels for ourselves, for the people around us, for the world around us, because we feel like it helps us know what's happening or predict what's going to happen or just having a sense of what's going on. Um, and some of those labels are fine. You don't need to get rid of all your labels. um, but what would be good to look at is how you define a lot of those labels and the sense of identity, the story you tell yourself about yourself based on those. So again, that idea of being a savior or a martyr, some people really invested a lot of energy and time, consciously and unconsciously, into being a savior, saving other people, which again, we don't really do. Can't save anybody else. They do it for themselves. Um, if your identity is the one and you're the one in your family who fixes everything, who sorts it all out, um, that I would say that's probably there's some unhealthy dynamics in that. So it's not that you stop helping your family members. It's not that you stop supporting them because obviously you want to love them and support them and and be there for them. But if you're the one that fixes things for them so that they get to put it on you and they don't have any responsibility, that's unhealthy. So I would really again look at the motivation within that. So kind of whatever this identity of is, I am the one who this. So like I'm the one who keeps the peace, or I'm the one who keeps everyone happy, or I'm the one who sorts out, the conflicts between my siblings or my parents, or I'm the one who, yeah. So whatever you find yourself saying, I'm the one who this, I would really encourage you to play with that identity and maybe pick apart the dynamics within that to see, because you'll be getting something from it on some level. Again, that sense of identity, sometimes that makes us feel safer. It makes us feel like we have a place in our families or with the people around us. It makes us feel like we have a job to do or that we're worth something or that we're indispensable. So there will be a reason why you're doing it. But again, if the goal is to truly show up aligned and of service, I would encourage you to maybe have a look at that. And breathe through that. If there's any of these aspects you're ready to set aside, just we'll let that happen now. So in terms of serving and being of service to the world, like I really believe, so when we talk about dharma or purpose, I believe that we have multiple purposes. I don't think we're here for just one thing. I think that those purposes are the running themes through our lives. And I think that actually, if we live our purpose, then we are of service. So even at the very least, if we're just showing up every day in our community, being aligned, authentic, the best versions of ourselves, being kind and loving and compassionate, that is of service. That is being of service to the community and to the world, because not everybody's showing up that way, and it's creating a lot of problems. Um, I think that, again, this may tie in a little bit with the wounding I was talking about at the beginning. A lot of my wounding was around my intuitive and my empathic senses. Now that I've learned to work with them, that is one of my great ways I am of service. I help people to work through that and understand those things and to amplify and embody them, to really live them. So in terms of my purposes, I know I'm here to be a healer, guide, supporter, coach, whatever term you want to use for that. I know I'm here to teach, and I know I'm here to be intuitive and psychic and to embody those gifts. These all go together. Um, that is part of how I am of service to the world. So I do that through my work, obviously, but I can do that in my everyday conversations. I can show up as intuitive and empathic and using the gifts that have awakened and that I've cultivated through that. Um, yeah. So I can do this in lots of different ways. It doesn't just have to be through the job that you do or through a career or through a set relationship or a set way. These are the things, this is how you show up every day. So I think that when we really understand those bigger themes of, why am I really here? Um, have I really fully awakened to that? Am I really actually living all of that? The more you can say yes to that, the more you are just naturally living and being of service to the world. So breathe that in for a moment. Just breathe in that awareness. I think our ego or, that subconscious aspect of us likes to put a bunch of pressure or importance or likes to create all these stories around what it is to be of service, around what it is to have a purpose or to live it. I think we just do it every day. And the more we do it every day, the easier it feels, the more aligned it feels, and the more that works through us in our everyday choices and in the ways we speak to each other, the ways we show up, the ways we love each other. Um, yeah, yeah. So again, this is going to be a little different for everybody. Everybody's those themes, those the dharma, the purpose is going to be different for each of us. Um, just like some of the wounding will be, but I think a lot of it is we're asking the same questions, or we're looking at the same, I don't know, processes and kind of this healing journey, and recognizing that we can go through this healing process, and we can learn from our wounds, and that can awaken us to something greater, to something bigger than ourselves, but that is inclusive of ourselves. Again, this isn't something that you just do every once in a while on a special day. These are the gifts and the wisdom that you embody, that you understand. Again, it's more than knowing, it's an understanding. You actually live it. um so again, it's one thing for me to know what sincerity is. It's another thing for me to be sincere. It's one thing to know what peace is on some level. It's another thing to be peaceful, and to feel peace within. Um, yeah. And people talk about, stuff around power and power imbalances. Is one thing to think you know what power is. It's another thing to actually be powerful at the core of who you are. Oh, breathe that in. Yeah. Um, yeah. So I'm going to take us through a little meditation. Um, and this could be a couple things. You could experience a couple things. This, you might experience some healing in this. We'll call in some unconditional love and some healing energy. So if there are any wounds that you feel you are ready to resolve and finish that are cycling through, we'll send some healing to that. There's also an opportunity for some insight and some clarity if there are things around, I don't know, understanding or awakening that could happen for you now. We'll invite that in. So there may be an opportunity for some insight or clarity. I mean, when I talk about this could be, I don't know, you just get a word or a feeling. Again, it may not be something, a big story or something like that. Sometimes this stuff is subtle, but it's still powerful. It can still be really powerful, even if it's subtle. Um, yes. So I'll take you through the meditation. So we'll do some healing around that, and then I'll do a last. I pulled a card for the group, and we'll do a closing prayer. And then if there's any last questions, we can go through that. Oh, right. So let's take a couple nice deep breaths. And again, just as I was saying before about just being really present and centered, being in the now. Just take a moment to just allow your body and your mind to slow, to still. And just take a moment to feel what it's like to be present in your own body, in your own energy field inside of yourself right now. And if you feel like there's any part of you that's trying to escape or run away or distract yourself, just breathe into that and just keep returning. You just return again and again. And as we go through the meditation, if there's any areas within you that feel heavy, that feel stuck, feel uncomfortable, you can just breathe into those parts of yourself and allow the breath to start to move that energy. And to start with, I want you to just choose one area of wounding in your life. Whether it's a specific feeling, a specific belief about yourself, or just a theme or action that's been playing out over and over and over again throughout your life. Narrow it down to one. The more specific you can get, the easier it is to resolve. And take a moment and feel the energy, the emotion, any sensations connected with that sense of wounding or pain. So for some people, it's sadness. For some people, it's anger. For some, it's frustration or grief. Or maybe a mixture of feelings or emotions. But just notice what's happening in your body and what is cycling through you with those patterns over the years. And if any part of you is trying to suppress this or run away or avoid, know that that's okay. It's just this is a pattern of response. But for right now, you can be with that feeling, you can be with the emotions. And as you sit with them, I want you to allow yourself to gain some insight or clarity on what these experiences are meant to awaken within you. Any understanding, any gifts, any wisdom. And just notice what positive things you could be learning from those negative experiences. And allow yourself to recognize what those positive awakenings could feel like. So if they are awakening compassion, feel compassion within you. If it's awakening clarity, feel the clarity within you. If it's awakening integrity, feel that integrity through your body. If it's awakening grace, feel that grace moving through you. If it's awakening respect, feel what it's like to be respected or to respect others. But ask again, what is the wounding meant to awaken within me? And allow the answers, the feeling to be present. And as you gain insight on the gifts, on the genius, allow those cycles of wounding to start to complete, finish. Feel that energy cycling through you start to diminish or end. Recognize that old pain and trauma is starting to resolve. And just feel yourself being more centered, more at ease, more present within your own body. And if there's any old identities, any labels, any old motivations that no longer serve, that no longer support your growth, that no longer contribute to you being more of service, just feel that energy start to change. Allow yourself to be unburdened. And if there's any karmic cycles you've accepted or you're continuing, that you're ready to finish and complete, allow that to end now too. Now allow yourself to recognize if there are new ways you could be of service to the world, to those around you, or if there's simply something you could be clearer on, that could be easier, that could be more fun. And just allow that energy to move through you into your life, into your relationships. We're just going to ask that this awareness, that this energy is a part of your physical body, your physical world, your cells, part of the way you show up, part of your energy signature. And just allow yourself to feel that in your bones and your muscles. Breathe it in and out of your lungs. Let it be a physical presence in the here and now. And taking a few nice deep breaths. Whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. If you want to take another few moments with that, please do. I'm going to read, I'm going to show you a card that I pulled for the group for tonight. And hopefully there's something in this you can take. So I pulled the Aries or the Mars card. And this is from the Wild Unknown Alchemy deck. If any of you are interested, it's a great one. So this is will, vigor, and activism. And it says, with Mars by our side, we can assert ourselves in the world. Our presence is felt and our voice is heard. Like a flame, Mars rises upward and helps us stand strong for what we believe in. Social justice movements are great examples of Mars energy in action. With clarity of purpose, Mars leads us to peaceful change, the upholding of human rights, and representing the unrepresented. When Mars appears in a reading, there is strength and vigor required to face the challenges ahead. It may take the form of speaking the truth, getting yourself out of a relationship or job, or getting involved in activist work. As alchemists, we must be very precise with our dosage of Mars. As in uncontrolled amounts, it leads to outbursts and violence. Mars is most potent when paired with nonviolence. And the point to ponder is fighting without fighting, which I love that. So yeah, so again, it's this idea of if you're seeking understanding, not just knowledge, how do you act? How do you show up with it? How do you apply it? Um, so I would encourage you to either repeat this meditation or, extend it, sit with these questions. Yeah, allow yourself to kind of play in this possibility of awareness or deeper understanding of yourself. In terms of kind of resources or future events, starting on the 26th of June, this for the summer months, I'm going to be all of my kind of teaching calls will be on really this and more taking you through a journey of this. So we've kind of touched on a lot of things here. So we're going to go really deep into a lot of these aspects over the course of the summer, over the course of 6 calls. So this, I have run a similar container to this before a couple times. So on my website, you can find some information about that. If you go to withjennifer.com/membership and go into the summer section, that will give you some more information. You don't have to attend all 6 calls if you don't want to. I would encourage you to. I think it's worth going through the whole journey of it. And if you join the membership, you get a bit of a discount with the events and with the recordings as well. So I won't spend a whole bunch of time talking about that. You can go into the membership section and have a look, and or just join as and when. But with that, we're going to look at kind of the larger collective archetypes, and how those stories play out within ourselves and in our lives, whether we're conscious or unconscious of them. We're going to look at polarities and the dynamics that we are sometimes in conflict with. So whether that's masculine and feminine, passive or active, powerful or weak. Also looking at kind of these universal themes around kind of classic archetypes like the innocent, the sage, the warrior, the king and the queen, things like this, and just really helping to understand why you may have been showing up the way you have and whether that's still really aligned for you to continue with. And then we're going to go deeper into these ideas of who you are as a leader, healer, teacher, sage, and ways you can show up and be of better service to the world, have more impact in ways that feel much more aligned and graceful and light for you as well. Yes, so hopefully that if that speaks to you, you're able to join us with any of these calls. You're welcome to join live and also receive the replay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just do a very quick closing prayer, but if there are questions or if people want to kind of share things, feel free to type away in the chat, or I'll stop the recording and we'll if people want to ask questions for the group. So just really so just as a closing kind of point or closing prayer, Mother Earth, Father Sky, creator of all that is, Atanaha, all that is, thank you so much for bringing us together. We ask that we know what it feels like to be of service in the highest and best way, to lead from a space of wisdom and compassion and care without our old wounds clouding our vision or creating unhealthy dynamics in our relationship. We ask that we know what it feels like to set healthy boundaries for the good of ourselves and those that we serve. Oh, thank you all so much.